You know this image. I mean, it's one of the most famous sites on the entire planet, Machu Picchu. Just looking at it, it sparks the imagination, doesn't it? This mysterious city floating in the clouds, this incredible symbol of a powerful civilization way up in the Peruvian Andes. Okay, let's get into this. We've all heard the story, right? The romantic version, that for hundreds of years this amazing place was just gone, completely lost to the outside world, swallowed up by the jungle, just waiting for some heroic explorer to stumble upon it.
But here's the big question, the one that changes everything. Was it ever truly lost? And that's what we're going to dig into. We are going to peel back the layers of that famous myth to get to a story that's, way more complicated, and honestly, a whole lot more interesting.
All right, so let's just tackle that lost city myth head on. The idea of one lone explorer making this incredible discovery, it's a fantastic tale. But the reality? Well, the reality is a bit more crowded.
Now just look at this timeline. The name we all associate with Machu Picchu is, of course, Hiram Bingham. But 9 years before he ever showed up, a Peruvian explorer named Agustin Lizarga was already there. He even carved his name on one of the walls. And when Bingham finally did arrive in 1911, he didn't just wander in and find it. Nope, a local farmer, Melchor Artiega, literally led him there. So here's the key takeaway. Machu Picchu was never lost to the people who were living right there in its shadow.
And if that wasn't enough to rethink the story, the mystery gets even deeper. It's not just about who found it. It's about the name itself. We all call it Machu Picchu, which means Old Peak, because that's the name Hiram Bingham put in his books. But you know what? Recent research, digging into documents from the 1500s, suggests the Inca who actually built the place probably called it something else entirely, maybe Huayna Picchu, or just Picchu.
So if it wasn't some big lost city, then what in the world was it? Let's move on because its real purpose is just as incredible as any myth.
First things first, you gotta forget the idea of a huge bustling city. All the evidence points to something way more exclusive. Machu Picchu was basically a private royal estate. Think of it like a seasonal palace in the mountains, kind of like a Camp David for the Inca emperor Pachacuti, built for him around 1450. It was his personal getaway.
And the population there totally reflects that. We're not talking about thousands and thousands of citizens. The best guess is that there was a permanent staff of maybe 750 people. And these were mostly servants, religious specialists, and skilled workers who kept the whole place running for when the emperor and his entourage came to visit.
But here's the crazy part. This incredible place was abandoned after only about 100 years. So what happened? Well, the Spanish conquest was tearing the empire apart. And even before the conquistadors got anywhere near this remote spot, their diseases, especially smallpox, raced ahead of them and likely just devastated the small, isolated population living there.
But the question that really boggles the mind is how on earth did they build this place, perched on a razor-sharp mountain ridge? This, right here, is where the story of Machu Picchu goes from fascinating to absolutely mind-blowing.
Okay, get this. The Inca intentionally built Machu Picchu right on top of a spot where several earthquake faults cross. Now, that sounds like a terrible, terrible idea, right? But it was actually genius. The Inca understood geology. They knew, first, that the faults gave them tons of pre-cracked granite, basically a ready-made quarry, and second, those deep fractures provided amazing natural drainage, which is absolutely critical in a place that gets hammered with rain.
And their building techniques? Just as brilliant. This slide really shows off their anti-earthquake design. They master this technique of shaping stones so they fit together perfectly, with no mortar at all. I mean, they're so precise you can't even slip a credit card between them. And you see those trapezoidal doors and windows? The rounded corners? It was all designed to let the building dance during an earthquake. The stones would literally jiggle around and then settle right back into place. That's why it's still standing today.
This genius wasn't just in the buildings. It was in the land itself. You see all those famous terraces? They weren't just for farming. They were a super sophisticated system to keep the whole mountain from sliding away. As this shows, they were built in layers, a foundation of big stones at the bottom, then gravel for drainage, then sand, and finally rich topsoil that was probably carried up, basket by basket, from the valley floor thousands of feet below. Just incredible.
Okay, so let's jump back to the 20th century, because the site's so-called rediscovery kicked off a whole new chapter in its story and a controversy that would last for 100 years.
This quote from Hiram Bingham himself is, well, it's pretty revealing. He's basically saying,
Yeah, sure, other people might have been here, but just like Columbus discovered America, I discovered Machu Picchu for the scientific world. And it was that very specific claim, the claim of scientific discovery, that set the stage for everything that happened next.
See, under the banner of that scientific study, Bingham's expeditions took thousands of artifacts, pottery, tools, even human remains, and brought them to Yale University. The deal was for an 18-month loan for study. But that 18 months turned into almost 100 years. For decades, Peru demanded their return. Finally, after years of legal battles and diplomatic pressure, a deal was struck, and by 2012, the artifacts were finally back home in Peru.
So, the return of the artifacts closed one long chapter. But today, Machu Picchu is facing a completely different set of challenges, all born from its unbelievable fame.
It's not some remote ruin anymore. It's a global icon. It's a Peruvian national sanctuary. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And in 2007, it was named one of the new 7 wonders of the world. Every single one of those titles just cranked up its fame and the number of people who desperately want to see it.
And all that fame creates massive pressure. As you can see right here, tourism is by far the biggest strain on the site. But it's also being squeezed by the crazy growth of the nearby town, the constant push for more infrastructure like roads and hotels, and, just the wear and tear of millions of feet walking on ancient stone.
And to really put that tourism pressure into perspective, just think about this number. More than 1.5 million people visit Machu Picchu every single year. That averages out to over 4,000 people every single day. Just managing that crowd is the site's biggest modern challenge by far.
And that leaves us with a really tough question, one that applies to so many of our planet's greatest treasures. How do we protect a world wonder from being loved to death? Finding that perfect balance between sharing this incredible piece of human heritage and preserving it for the future. Well, that's the great challenge that lies ahead. Thanks for tuning in.